Welcome to 4.0 to Pro, the pickleball podcast that focuses on a single shot, tip, or strategy to improve your pickleball game with every single pocket-sized episode. Our goal is to make you better on the court every time you hear our voices.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of 4.0 to Pro, your pocket-sized pickleball podcast. We teach you a single shot or strategy every single episode. Michael O'Neill here in sunny Long Beach, California, joined by Juan Mircea Murariu there in Boca Raton, Florida. Dude, you're sleeveless. You got your compression sleeve on your right hand. To me, that tells me you were on the court very recently before this episode.
Yes, sir. I enjoyed some good drilling today with my soon-to-be partner, Armando Ferrer. We were playing the APP Cayman Islands, and we worked out with Mari Humberg. Had a nice drill session, and she has a new paddle, which was quite spicy. So it was interesting to get on the court with her again. She's always a fun person to drill with, super nice, very earnest, and is just a pleasure to be around. Really enjoyed my afternoon drill session today.
I have a major pickleball crush on Mari Humberg. I love how she approaches the game. Her backhand flick is stupid. Like, it's just this lovely. I don't know if there's another female player that has that particular shot that she does. If there is, I can't think of one off the top of my head. It's just great. And I wish she was on this coast because I would love to drill with her and learn from her.
Yeah, there's several top female players that are working on the one-handed flick, including Anna Bright, who has premiered it for quite some time, and now it's kind of being used more often. But Mari has an exceptional backhand flick amongst some other skills that she has in terms of manipulating her slice dinks with her backhand. And anyway, she's just a fun person to drill with.
Couple things, you guys. Mircea is off to Cayman Islands, which is going to be really sorry to hear that, bro. We are doing our first Patreon live stream next Tuesday. What is the date on that, Mircea, while I'm looking? Can you tell me what that is? I think it's a week from today, actually. So it's 25th, I think. Tell me if I'm wrong. But
Correct. March 25th.
March 25th. We're doing it at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. So if you are a Patreon member, you can jump on, ask us questions. It'll be like a cool Q&A live stream. And if it's possible that we can set you guys up for your next couple of months of drilling, blah, 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 then that sounds great. You can join that live stream by joining us on Patreon at 402p.com/support, 402p.com/support, and you can join our little Patreon. Today, Mircea, we're doing something that is counter, no pun intended, to not only everything we've ever talked about on the show, but most of the things you hear in pickleball coaching, which is the Cross Court Speedup. You're firing a ball at the person diagonally from you, and there's a number of reasons not to do that, but there are a few reasons to do it, and that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah. The show could be very brief, as you mentioned, and I would say, Michael, do we speed up cross court or do we not speed up cross court? And you would say,
I would say never. That's a terrible idea. It gets you uninvited from the Christmas party.
Yes, and you might even be off the Christmas present list as well.
That's right.
If you do it often enough and are persistent enough and are failing. So we're going to talk about some options for speeding up cross court in particular contexts. And then we're going to, first of all, I think we should start. Michael, why do you think it's not a great idea to speed up cross court? Let's get your thoughts on it first.
The appeal of it, as someone who's coming up through the ranks, is that it's the lowest part of the net. So you have this nice juicy spot. You can turn and you can fire on this person. The problem is they're so far away versus the person directly in front of you that they have all kinds of time to turn on it and fire it at the person directly across from them, which happens to be your partner, thus you getting uninvited from the Christmas party. They are more prepared. They can see it coming. And really, a lot of times, especially if you're left side to left side and you fired at them, you're giving them exactly what they want, which is a sitter in the middle of the court that they can turn and fire a forehand, assuming they're righty. They can fire a forehand on with all the twist and velocity they want to. So it seems like a terrible idea to do it any time whatsoever.
And what we're really talking about is speeding up balls or attacking balls that are waist high or a little bit lower. Because if we have balls that are high that we were talking about the red, yellow, and green. And so from the perspective of the person on the opposite side, if they hit you a high ball that's at your chest, shoulder, or a little bit higher, that's a red ball. So when you have a put away ball, you can go cross court middle because you can go down low. You're hitting the ball from high to low and you can really get it down at someone's feet. So those balls, those are more put away balls. Right now we're talking about the 4.0, 4.5 plus type attackable ball, which are those at our waist, maybe our thighs, sometimes our knees. But the balls that might be either at the net level or slightly below, those are the ones that are still attackable balls. And when we go cross court, especially if we go cross court middle, particularly from the right side, when we go cross court middle to the right side, we are going into the person on the right, we're going to their backhand. And especially if they have a good two-handed counter or even a one-handed counter, that ball is going to go right into your partner or right past your partner. Now, if you're on the right side and you see that opening and you think, okay, looks like there's an opening in the middle, let's go for that. And if you have a good quality left side player in front of you and you're attacking that ball from the right, kind of cross court middle again, and you think you see an opening, that opening is going to close really quickly and that ball will be redirected with that person's forehand into your partner. Because I've seen it numerous times. Even at the senior pro level, guys like Rick Witskin, guys like Scott Moore, you think it's open, that cross middle, and it's just not. They cover it and they redirect it right into your partner. The cross court middle often, especially in mixed doubles with a quality left side player, is not there, even though it looks like it can be.
So what you're saying is that there's an element where there are specific scenarios that this works, but A, we have to proceed with caution, and two, it needs to be a somewhat precise and calculated spot that you're hitting. This isn't just like a, let me put my head down and fire it in the general direction of that person that's on the other side.
Exactly. And when we're talking about attackable balls, it's not just balls in the air, also on the bounce. So if you're attacking off the bounce, the person on the diagonal side, they have even more time because the ball has bounced. So they can see perhaps that you're taking a bigger backswing. They can predict that you're going to be speeding up cross court and even be more ready than they already are.
So the scenarios where this works and where it's a good idea, because I think that's really the discerning factor. Is this a good idea? Does this give us an advantage? And I suppose that part of the advantage in this case, Mircea, is that most people are taught that this isn't coming at a higher level. Like most people think that because you're a 4.5 plus or a 5.0 player, you're going to be smart enough not to do a cross court speed up. But I think you and I have both witnessed in the last year or two, this is becoming a more prevalent shot than it was in 2022, let's say.
Yeah, and especially at the pro level, people are speeding up more off the bounce and in the air, but particularly off the bounce. You have the new paddles. They're a little bit hotter. It can generate some more spin. So you can target the ball a little bit more specifically and with a laser-like focus that you really couldn't do quite as much before. And also people are getting better. But there are a few scenarios where it can work, and you see this at the pro level.
Take us through the scenarios. Let me get one scenario. Let's start with left side player to left side player. Okay. You're the dominant player on the court. We're assuming all righties right now. And maybe there's a scenario where there's a righty lefty combo as well. But right now we've got two righties. They're both playing left side. And this is either gender or mixed.
Yeah. So in this scenario, it doesn't really matter whether it's mixed or gender, but one thing that is very effective is, for example, if I'm playing the left side and I dink out wide, so I have a backhand off and slice. So if I dink someone a little bit out wide and they hit a backhand and they pop it up cross court, the natural reaction will virtually always be to turn back and cover the forehand. So someone will turn back towards you and put their right hand out as if they're covering a forehand because they've just popped the ball up with their backhand. So they go back to cover the middle and appropriately put their forehand there. So what you can do, and when you have that pop up, is just basically attack cross court and aim for the middle of their body. So like their belly button. And you're often going to jam them because they had just popped it up. They turn back in an open stance to you and they're going to the forehand. If you go cross middle where you're going into their forehand, that's exactly where they're going to be. But if you go more towards their body, their right hip or their belly button, they're often unprepared for that. So that's one scenario, cross court.
Now, is that a situation where if you miss your target, because you're aiming belly button, you're aiming center mass on them for that one, or even a little bit to the outside if you can, so a little bit left hip on that player, because their momentum is going right towards the middle of the court. They're probably, like you said, preparing for that ball, which is the one they see all the time. If they could, physically, could they matrix that thing and get out of the way and that ball's probably out coming from you? Or is it safe enough that they could leave it in? I feel like there is like you're committing to that ball and this is either going to body bag or jam them or it's going to be out.
No, it's really a shot that is going in because I'm often going for right hip or belly button rather than left hip. So I'm not going outside, I'm going more inside.
But isn't that where they expect it? That's where they've just moved to open their paddle up to that side.
But their paddle is already out.
Okay.
So even if it goes to their right hip, it's going to be jammed.
Okay.
So
you're going more in body even though it's on that side.
Correct.
Okay.
And you don't even have to hit it hard. You just hit it back in that location. So again, the scenario is that they pop it up and I'm attacking the ball relatively high, probably about my chest level or maybe my waist. And they are transitioning towards the middle with their right hand out to cover forehand. And I'm basically aiming for right hip or their belly button. And it doesn't have to be hard.
You're putting it on them, though. Like, that's the point, is that they're outside. They're trying to cover back in the middle. Their momentum is going center. You're putting it on them somewhere. If it connects anywhere on their torso, it's going to be trouble for them.
Yeah. And they're generally off balance because
Right.
they have just popped it up and they're scrambling to recover. So that's another time that you want to attack is when your opponent is off balance. That's one scenario.
You're basically hitting it at the moment they're saying, oh, S. Oops. Oh, and the ball's, they knew what they did. The ball's popped up and you're like, psh, sorry about your luck.
Yeah. And it's often the case when you're playing some rec games and someone pops up a ball and they go, oh, S.
Yeah.
And something's coming.
Yeah. We used to say that in Ultimate Frisbee. We were like, shit called.
Yeah. Oops.
Yeah. You blew it. Is there another left to left scenario?
One other good one is when someone is dinking and say for the sake of argument, they dink a relatively dead dink cross court from the left, or perhaps I have dinked the ball to someone in front of me and they dink it back relatively soft with a dead dink to my forehand.
So it's like middle-ish of court when you're on that left side. Yeah.
Yep. And I can take a forehand and often I speed it up straight ahead. But what happens sometimes is that the left side player will pinch a little middle because they're expecting something fast, which is appropriate. And so what you can do is attack them inside out. So I'm hitting an inside out forehand to the same spots, their right hip or belly button. And that again jams them and often pops the ball up for your partner.
When you're assuming that your partner and you play somewhat often, when they see you doing that, if they're right side player, they're probably sitting on like a backhand counter in case that person is able to get it back. Generally?
Typically, yes. But what really helps when you're on the right side and your partner gets a relatively dead dink and you know that they're going to speed it up in some fashion, that is when I'm not watching them hit the ball. If I see a dead dink to my partner, I'm looking straight ahead.
You're focused on your opponents because you know that they're either going to be put in trouble or they're going to give you something back.
Yes. And if you focus your eyes straight ahead and perhaps you keep your partner in the periphery of your vision, but you're mainly looking straight ahead, you are much better able to be reactive to the ball and you're much better able to anticipate the ball. And thus your hands appear faster because you are looking straight ahead and able to predict where the ball is going to go.
That makes sense. Okay.
That's the concept of half tracking that we've talked about before, but it really helps. And I got caught a few times practicing with my partner the other day when he had floated it in cross court and he was on the left and I was on the right and someone had attacked me out of the air because I was turning my head. And so I completely stopped looking at him and just focused straight ahead. And the next 3-4 counters were really easy because I saw that they were coming. And that half a second anticipation really helps tremendously. So if people remember one thing about this particular podcast, I would encourage you to look straight ahead more quickly rather than watching your partner hit the ball all the time.
So we've covered a couple of left side player to left side player scenarios. Very often on the right, when you're on the right side, you are A lot of times watching the action because the left side player's getting a lot of play, or conversely, you're getting most of the action because the other team is targeting that right side player. So are there some scenarios that the right side player may consider speeding up cross court?
Absolutely. And what you have to remember is that if you're going to speed up cross court, you really don't want to go cross court middle for the reasons we mentioned previously, that it's the right side player's backhand, so they should be ready to counter, or it's the left side player's dominant shot, a forehand that they're covering. So if you are going to attack cross court, particularly from the right, you ideally should go cross body. So aim at their left or right hips or at their belly button, so you're coming across their body. One scenario is similar to the left side. So if I've had a good dink cross court to a person on the right and they're right-handed and they pop up a forehand dink and I've pulled them out wide a little bit, often they go back to react to cover their backhand. And so I take that high forehand pop-up, I go cross court, again, cross body to their midsection, and it's the same scenarios. They're a little bit off balance. They've gone to cover their backhand because they're out of position. And so I go across their body. So that's another similar scenario.
Strategically, it's pretty interesting because if you have a partnership that's pretty tight on the other side, very often that left side player will try to cover that backhand part. They'll reach over and try to cover, which leaves the court super exposed on that inside. But if you speed up and get a few balls to that inside and then get a few balls to their outside like that, it's going to force that left side player to play more middle maybe than they want to, because now they see, oh, this person's actually attacking that way. Even if it doesn't work initially or the first couple of times, you're teaching them that they can't just sit on that straight ahead speed up because the middle's going to be vulnerable or their other player's hip is going to be vulnerable because you've now shown, hey, I'm able to do that. It's interesting too, because as many of us, my X on the forehand side is lower than my X on the backhand side. So I can sneak a pretty nice speed up pretty low with my forehand versus I don't have that Mari Hamburg flick yet on the backhand side, but I can definitely hide a nice little speed up with my forehand because of 46 years of tennis and racket sports. So that's there. Pretty interesting that you can, at the very least, it feels to me like you're making them think and you're making them react to the shot in front of them versus a pattern that they might have recognized.
Yep, absolutely. And the other scenario for me on the right side as a right-hand player is when I get something on the bounce and someone is going to cover middle with their backhand on their right side. So again, it's just a cross-body, right hip, midsection type attack to try to jam them rather than going cross-court middle to their backhand when they're waiting. Now, that's, again, a little bit more risky, and you see this, what's described as a full send if you watch some of the pro matches. You'll have, for example, either Gabe Tardy or Hayden Patrick can frequently do this. They will just line up a forehand and just speed it up cross court as hard as they can into the body of the player cross court to try to jam them. And it's not really meant to go in. And you definitely do not want to aim high because that is very dangerous. And none of us are trying to aim high at the head or high shoulders. That's not what we're talking about. But you want to aim lower down, more at the center mass rather than up high. So make sure you do that if you are attacking that way.
So something dawns on me about this, and I literally almost brought up Hayden Patrick as you were talking about it. I think one of the things that both of those players have in common, and probably the secret sauce to making this work, is that they wait until the last millisecond before they reveal that they're going to hit this shot. Because in general, like they hold it fire, and that doesn't allow the other team to react very well to it. Because if they're expecting a direct in front speed up, which is 90% of the time, this thing can really catch them off guard if they're able to come around the ball and then fire it cross court, like you just said.
And you brought up a scenario where you were keeping the left side player relatively honest, like that way you're playing chess, not checkers, because if you force that left side player to scoot over, let and cover when you keep attacking a certain spot cross court where their partner has to adjust, then you can take another ball and just go softly behind them, like from the right side, go inside out. Like I could take a forehand volley and go inside out low to the left side player. And that way we've opened them up by moving them over. Does that make sense?
It does. And what's funny about that is I've seen, and I'm sure you see it all the time, sometimes there's a sacrificial lamb to set up that shot, meaning you might cross court speed up a couple of times just so those guys on the other side go, that's a no-fly zone. He does that, I'm going to step over and rip that every time. And then like at the most critical part of the game, you fake him out and go inside out and go behind him. And you're like, yeah, you took the bait. Thanks for the 2 points earlier in the game, but that was the one that we needed.
Exactly. And on both the right and left side, if someone has been pulled out, if you've pulled the diagonal player way out and you've opened up that middle, yes, you can sometimes attack there, but generally meaning you can sometimes go cross court middle, but generally speaking, that's usually closed when the players are in adequate court coverage, meaning that they're moving in tandem and relatively yoked and covering the ball well, especially if they're good movers. There are some inexperienced players where you will pull one player out diagonally, but the player directly in front of you doesn't move to cover.
Yeah.
Sometimes that'll happen in new partnerships or someone's inexperienced, and then you can go cross-court middle, but usually cross-court middle is a no-go.
I think to reiterate, this is a scenario-specific shot. You're pretty much targeting body and a pretty specific spot on the body if you can manage to hit it. Talk about a little bit. Now, you and I are partners. I know you have this in you now, right? It's okay. Every once in a while, Mircea might fire a cross-court speed up. I feel like there has to be some conversation between partners, like, if this doesn't work, get prepared for some heat. Get ready, because I'm going to test the limits a couple times and see if this is going to work. And much like when I was on court with your tier 1 players, there were a couple of, that's a no-fly zone. That ain't going to work at all against this crew. So talk a little bit about that like dynamic where I want to test this. So I'm sorry about the welt you might get, but let's give it a go.
I love that you brought this up because this kind of also dovetails into our previous communication discussions, which we've had over and over. And you can just pick a target and tell your partner where you're going to speed up. Obviously, right in the heat of battle, you're not going to be able to do that. But before the point, you might say, I see that Joe, who's on the left side, is pinching middle a lot, so I'm going to try to go inside out to try to jam him. If I get a soft, fluffy ball, that's when I'm going to attack. And again, you're assuming that you know that Joe is already on the left side because you guys are playing them. So it doesn't have to be that detailed, but you can just say, hey, the guy on the left is pinching middle. I'm going to try to go inside out and see if I can jam him. And that literal 5-second discussion can be tremendously helpful.
Yeah, and this entire show assumes that you have the chops to hit the precision shot that is required to make this work. Because it is a zero-sum game, but it can punish you more than it helps you if you aren't able to hit the spot you're aiming for. And worse off, it can really punish your partner.
It's like everything else. You can try it, and if it's not working, obviously, you don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
When you're on the left side, if the person directly across from you is dinking cross-court middle, if you're on the left side, so you're able to take that ball in the middle in the air and go inside out to the person on the left, below the net, that's actually a really good shot. And I remembered specifically during one match, Jose DeRisi and I were playing Althoff, Merchant, and Dave Weinbach. And I think it was at the beginning of the year, and they hadn't lost a single senior pro match the year before. And Althoff has really excellent dinks. But I was able to figure out that when Althoff is dinking cross-court middle, I was able to take some of those and redirect them inside out at Dave, who was pinching middle. And so he was reaching more forehand, and I was just going inside at his body, and I got him several times that way.
Is the result of that speed up typically, because now you're left foot of that left side player, because you've put it down on the opposite end of where they're pinching, does that usually result in a pop up to the forehand of your partner who's playing right side?
It's not left foot. I'm going into their body. I'm not dinking. I'm going to their body.
Oh, okay. You're speeding. I thought you were going more like flipping it to their feet. So that's why I asked that. Okay, never mind. Okay. Because I thought that would like result in a straight ahead pop up just because they've got no other option. You know what I mean?
It often does result in a straight up pop up, but it can also just result in a winner. But with every attack or instigation or whatever you want to describe, it's always a 2 and sometimes 3 step combo.
Yeah.
You're never just speeding up for one ball. You're speeding up or attacking to get another ball. So that inside out poke from the middle, taking the person's dink going cross middle from the right side, you take it with your forehand when you're on the left and you poke it inside out to the torso of the person on the left. That will often get your partner a forehand pop-up.
Okay.
And then same thing on the other side. If you're on the right side and the person from the left is dinking cross court middle, if you are up on the line, you can take that backhand and take it inside out to the right side of the player on the right side. And you jam them and it gets a pop-up for your partner with their backhand often. Again, one of the reasons we don't speed up in principle so much cross court is because you have the sideline. When you're hitting something hard, cross court, if it goes to the right side of the right side player, it's going to go out. If it goes to the left side of the left side player, it's going to go out. So when you're defending these attacks, if I'm on the right, I'm often just pinching middle and not worrying about the ball going to my right because that's going to go out. And you can try this at home. Just take a ball, bounce it, hit it cross court to the right of the right side player and see how softly you need to hit it in order to keep it in. You have to actually hit it pretty softly.
Otherwise, you got to go full body. So the bottom line is, guys, proceed with caution, but reap the benefits if you can take advantage of someone who doesn't think that is a shot that's coming. I think to surprise them. And like we said earlier, just you're keeping them honest in a lot of ways because most people are used to direct, straight ahead speed ups. So if you're able to execute these with the right kind of precision, it's one more thing to add to the toolkit.
Yep. And the takeaway point is in this particular scenario or scenarios that we are discussing, you're attacking body, not space. And by space, I mean, you think you see an open space cross court middle, but that space is often closed at high level play. So that's when you want to attack more body rather than space. So in this context, we are often attacking body, not space.
Guys, we apologize to your partners as you work these techniques out, and hopefully you stay on the Christmas list. But as always, thank you guys for listening to the show. Mircea, please enjoy Cayman Islands. It sounds like just a really rough gig for you, buddy.
I will try to suffer through and I will persevere just for you, my friend.
Well, I can't wait to see the pictures. Again, Patreon next Tuesday, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. We will jump on and hang with you guys. And until then, go enjoy the pickleball courts. You guys keep on rocking. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to 4.0 to Pro. For more tips, find us on Instagram at 4.0 to Pro. If you have a pickleball question, submit it at picklehelp.com. Now, get out there and dominate. But don't forget to have fun.